Watching Smart Means Business. Now we are on to our on-ground discussions this morning, and of course Berija Andrew will be giving us an insight of what to expect in the on-ground today.
Of course, definitely we shall be reviewing the role of a CEO in any company. You know, probably you're out there, I mean, you want to start up a company, but you know what it really takes, and also the aspect of, yes, it's already running, what's your role of you as a CEO to ensure that there is that consistency in its operations. You know, that is Jerabele, that's one of the very key aspects. Before we get into this, you establish, you start up a company, okay, but sustaining that company. Now that comes back to the role of a CEO, that it's not just starting a company. But of course, let's first review this. I shall be returning back with more highlights regarding this.
As a CEO, the CEO is the overall manager, overall supervisor of the company, and therefore you are responsible to look at the company growth and expansion. You're responsible to look at managing both internal and external environments. So with the external environments, we would talk of clients, we would talk of partners, we would talk of markets. Then with the internal environment, we would look at your employers, the electors, we would look at staff, would look at those internal operations, but also we, as a CEO, you're responsible for relationship management. Yeah, with you cannot grow where you don't have relationship with the other growth drivers. Okay, then. Of course, you have to look at profitability. Yeah, you maximize profits of the company as you try to minimize, of course, losses. Then now, like for share capitals, you must improve the shareholding of the company, because at the end of the day, you making profits is different from getting high dividends for your directors, of course. Then you're supposed to manage challenges, yeah? Because as the CEO of the company, you're the advisor to the board, okay? You're the shock absorber of all company challenges, okay? You're the major driver, yeah? You have to look at compliancy at all levels, because those are some of the things that many people will not take heed of. And therefore, you're responsible for improving the brand, of the company, attracting investors, attracting partners, growing the market share basically, and the sustainability of its operation. Of course, challenges are quite many, and some challenges are on policy levels, where you now, like in the business community, government has its own policies, which policies sometimes do not favor my business community. Now, it's upon me as a CEO, one, to either advise government on the changes or adjustments, but also to advise my members on their adaptability. Yeah. Two, we usually have governance challenges, where you as a CEO, you see things in one direction, but then maybe your directors, your members, your staff, at different structural levels, see different things in different ways. Now, harmonizing is usually a challenge. Then, of course, we have market challenges, where you, just the way we witnessed what Nokia did, where the CEO of Nokia admitted to have lost the market, but then he says he did nothing wrong, but at the end of the day he lost it. Yeah. So as a CEO, you must be vigilant to all the time do research, all the time embrace trainings, all the time, be out there to match with the trend, match with the sector trend, match with the government trend, match with the, even globally. You're here in Uganda, but what is happening in the region? How are the business people being treated in Kenya? Yeah? Because if you don't do that, you will see a lot of transition of Ugandan businessmen going to do business in Kenya, and you can't tell why. Okay? Then the flexibility as an individual, flexibility in relationship building, you as a person, of course. So there is a lot that we face. Then the other challenge, of course, is where people do fail to prioritize. Someone looks at himself of what he's earning, what he's benefiting, at the expense of either growing the company, not knowing that as the company grows, you also grow. As the profits increase, even your salary, even your benefits, and of your people also do what? Increase. So that balance. But also, of course, we have the work-life harmonization, work-life balance, where someone is all the time in office. He has no time for his health. He has no time, for these other social networks, and we tend to lose out. At any time when you break down, then you can't come up. Quite a lot. I think on the advice I already mentioned, in the constant research and development as a CEO, be out there to look for what really works for the company. Be out there. Actually, as it does no harm to associate with your competitors, to benchmark with your competitors. Okay? Then you as yourself, invest in yourself as a CEO by, academically, those trainings, socially, the networks, and adding so much value onto yourself and the company. Yeah. I think lastly, being updated of what is trending, what is going on the side of government, which policies are coming on board. How can you update yourself on those policies? How can compliance levels, what new thing has come on board? What is this client saying? What is this partner saying? So all the time being out there on the look for something new, even those challenges when they come and they find you, well equipped, you stand out to succeed. Not really, but as a chief executive officer, the only thing that you have to bear in mind is that you are the owner of the company. So when you have that ownership, that belonging of the company, then the rest is actually history. The rest moves on smoothly, as opposed to waiting for your employers to keep on pushing, asking this. No. Just own it, develop it as your own, okay? Expand the company as your own, treat your partners as your own, treat the clients as your own, and things will move on swiftly.
Very, very, very interesting insight right there. The role of a CEO. What are you supposed to do to ensure that your company, of course, blossoms to that level that you really want it to be at? Maybe before I give my opinion on this matter, Jerome, what's your say on that? For you, when you hear people say, I'm the CEO of this, what comes in your mind first of all, when you hear the word CEO?
Well,
and
back in the time when someone mentioned the CEO, to me it was more like the owner of the company in most of the cases, and that was what I thought. When you realize that someone is called the chief executive officer of a given company, all you realize was he owns the company. That is what I used to think. I do believe even up to now there are people who have the same kind of mentality, and you can't blame them, because if you're to look at the kind of ranking in any particular organization, sometimes they always put the CEO on top of the panel. But then with time, I got to realize surprisingly that sometimes the CEOs are appointed by the board.
Exactly.
But though in regards to the same matter, the CEO is acting like he owns the company, because you oversee all the everything, because you're the chief executive officer. Just like when you look at the government, kind of the three arms of the government, there is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, and of course the executive having the president, who is on top of, or who is seen as the leader of the country.
Exactly.
So the same applies to being a CEO. But regardless of that, you realize there are, in companies, CEOs sometimes, in most of the areas, for example, the private sector, or even in the government firms, CEOs are appointed by the board and to oversee, to act as the overseers
of the company's business.
Yes, and in the narrative of capitalism, whereby companies are owned by shareholders, or I should say, you realize sometimes the CEO is the one with the highest shares.
With a bigger,
if you have the highest shares in the given company, you end up being the CEO. The CEO.
You automatically become the CEO.
So because you have the highest shares in that company. So in such scenarios, but of course, it does not necessarily mean you're the owner of the company, because we've gone on to see bigger companies where the CEO is actually fired.
We've seen those scenarios.
CEO resigning and leaving the company, but then it doesn't mean after him resigning or leaving, the company is failing.
Exactly.
Unlike situations whereby you realize the real owner of the company dying, sometimes the company will die. But because CEOs sometimes oversee a lot of things, and like I mentioned, sometimes it's because in most cases whereby the CEO is referred to as the owner of the company, is when the CEO has more shares or is a shareholder in that company. But there are some scenarios, I think a case in point that we can use, for example, a renowned Robert Kapshenga with the New Vision, who was the CEO at the New Vision, but it didn't mean that he was the owner. Because the New Vision, it's a government entity, so which meant that he was appointed, he was just appointed by the board members to be CEO. After he resigned, they appointed a new person. But of course, you be in that particular position, that means as a CEO, you have to oversee, in my own understanding, or being under quite a number of people, or kind of CEOs in interactions we have with CEOs. They oversee every activity. They oversee the human resource office. Of course, it is the CEO who has the final say in most cases, in a company, in regards to the decisions that will affect the company's progress and every little new thing that is actually being added.
Absolutely, very true. And I would love, you see, I mean, that title sounds very sweet. I'm the CEO. It's the CEO. But what I've come to realize in this generation, most especially to the young CEOs, are not getting to understand the weight of that name. The weight that comes behind being a CEO. When Abel was speaking, the CEO of Casita, he mentioned a point which really among all the points he mentioned, it was the point I picked out. You're a shock absorber. I mean, you observe everything. During a discussion with one of the CEOs in the country, was saying, some of you people, you always say that CEOs are thieves, they walk away with the money, they pay themselves too big. But do you know that when the company also loses money, they're the first people to be on the put on the front line? They're the people that are being arrested. The company is not performing, they're the ones they look at. So it's just way beyond having the luxury. I mean, going for trips, going in here. I mean, there is what we call deliverance. The current CEO of Netflix, that is Ted Sarandos. Let me give examples of of real events. During the rise of Netflix, it is said that this guy, there are times he could sleep literally in the office. Spend an entire night in the office. I mean, trying to think, how am I going to make this company really become a mega company? How am I going to ensure this? To the extent that even one of the workers phoned him and told him, man, go take a shower. He found him sleeping on, it's like, oh, okay, let me go do this. But anyway, like what I see in here is the aspect of commitment that you determine how the company performs, not the people you employ.
Yeah.
Do you know that? It's because the people you employ work on your tune. So if they are not working to
Yes.
you are the problem.
You're always looked at, like he did mention, you're the shock absorber, or everyone looks at the company performance as you.
As you.
In most cases, we do realize in companies, when companies fail, sometimes they will either fire
The CEO.
the CEO,
Yeah.
or the CEO will have to fire the employees and hire new ones.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, when you have discussions with CEOs, they will tell you, if I don't find a solution, then I will be the solution that will leave.
Perfect.
Me leaving will be the solution to the company.
Perfect.
Because that means I've failed.
I've failed the company.
Yes, I've failed the company.
Yes.
So that is why in most cases, if a CEO identifies elements that need to be, sorted out of the company, they will definitely take that direction. However hard it does seem to be.
Exactly.
But if it is for the well-being of the company, they will take it.
They will have to take it.
Because at the end of the day, they will realize I would lose my position if this
You
person
serve as
has
an
failed
example.
to. You're serving as an example. So in most cases, that is why when you look at companies, in most cases where we find out managerial offices, vacant and all that, whereby companies will hire a manager to provide a solution to a given challenge.
Yeah.
And if the manager fails, then that means they're going to look for another person with capabilities of the same, but who can actually bring the X factor to the company.
Okay.
I believe like you did mention, being a CEO does sound to be a sweet name.
It sounds sweet.
I've got to see people on social media, when you go on LinkedIn, for example, and you try to visit, you tap into people's profiles, there's a lot of things that you will really be surprised, because LinkedIn has got all these particular descriptions of however small something is, there's a way LinkedIn brings it out, and like someone may actually think it's a huge thing.
Okay.
Now, if someone is a CEO, someone may be owning let's say a small eatery in town, but because of the plight that comes to being called a CEO, and of course we are not saying it's not right for someone to call, because it's a title. You realize someone will just say, I'm the CEO JP Boutique. JP Boutique is actually, I do know of a friend of mine who one time called herself the CEO of some boutique, but she was just an employee there. But because she was there full time and she was managing the sales and everything, so on Twitter she could call herself CEO, on the other platform CEO of that same. So everyone thought she owns it because she's the
says she's CEO.
So we do have a lot of Madam CEOs in this country, and
lots of them.
and Mr. CEOs. It is a title that to many up to now, I think people just use it because of the kind of pride it comes with when you call yourself a CEO. Like I did mention, once we hear of the word CEO in the African narrative, everyone would actually the first thing that goes to someone's mind, he owns, she owns that organization.
You are that final, you decide.
It's not until you get into the company to realize that maybe they were hired to that position, or they were just appointed by a given board of shareholders who own the same company, or the owner of the company, who does not want to be in the picture, sometimes decides to have a CEO, to sit in and manage for him.
Well, that is a very, very interesting. I'm going to still give live examples, about incidents that have happened about CEOs, because I believe they can best explain. And for any person that is viewing, you can go on Google and search this out. Recently, I think it was last year, the CEO of AMC Networks said no salary for the board. And the workers were still getting their salaries. I mean, he was coming back to this aspect saying, where is the money? I'm the dad. You know that the dad can forgo food, but the children have to eat, right?
Yes.
So it all, okay, I'm trying to paint a picture of what the price of being a CEO, of what it really takes. I mean, what defines a CEO is not you being called one, but do you have the substance do you have what makes one a CEO? I want to refer to the Bible. When Jesus said that the greatest among you will serve the rest, you have to serve. A leader serves, But in Africa, it's not the same. Leaders want to be served. But the true leadership is that leaders have to serve people. If you say, leaders don't play blame games. If something doesn't go right, and somebody tells you, why isn't this right? That's why clubs fire coaches. They don't fire individual players. However much a coach may have issues with a certain player, I mean, sort it out as the maturity of a CEO is, if you see, even when we're talking about, can I say, they call them what? Riots within the company. You're a leader, but how do you sort that on an individual basis? That maturity to solve that. Because if something doesn't go right because of a certain employee X did this, definitely they're going to come to you. Why? Okay, if you saw it happen, what did you do about it? I mean, it's really quite a pricey thing to be a CEO. It's not just being called title CEO, but you need to have the substance of what really a CEO does. Act like one. Demonstration of a CEO. But many don't demonstrate.
Okay, and of course that brings us to the end of Smart Means Business today. It's Thursday, and of course we continue to give you more business updates tomorrow with the same show starting in at 6:30 a.m. To all of you, we do wish you a good day and a blessed, fruitful working Thursday. Coming up will be Financial Markets at 10 a.m. with Anthony Sebale. So stick around, more is yet to come. You're watching Smart 24. Good morning.